Hello and welcome back to live coverage of the $5,000 Modern Open hosted by Apex Gaming. I'm Tandy, joined by Ross Merriam. Say hi, Ross.
Hi, Ross.
We got 5 rounds in the books, 2 more rounds of Swiss, followed by top 8 to bring you. Ross, what are we going to be looking at this round?
Well, before I get into it, I would like to thank, we got a recent raid right before we went live from Young Dingo. So thank you to them for the raid and welcome to all the raiders. You came at a great time. We're at the business end of our Swiss. As Todd said, 2 rounds left here. Our players are just about sitting down, and I'm just going to go quickly over our metagame breakdown, at least of who's still in contention. So we've got 14 players right now at X11 or better. That's our line for being likely live. Maybe an X2 squeaks in at some point, but we're just paying attention to those that are definitely live. Of those 14 players, 5 of them are playing Yawgmoth.
That's an impressive stat, but I think Yawgmoth's been the talk of the tournament so far. It was second or third most popular overall archetype and has continually dominated on camera, specifically because of a lack of Cascade decks. I know our buddy Elliot Raff plays a lot of Yawgmoth, always tells me how bad of a matchup Team of Rhinos is, and normally Team of Rhinos maybe second or third most played deck in the room, but today there's basically none.
Yeah, very little Rhinos. Our one Rhinos player who was potentially in contention lost last round. Do still have a couple Hammer Pilots, 2 of them, 2 Creativity, 2 Izzet Murktide. So those the typical, the usual suspects here in Modern. 1 4-color Omnath Pilot. They're going to be on backup, and we've got 1 Rakdos Scam. That's who we're going to start with. That is John Chudzik. We saw them lose actually on camera in round 3 to D'Artagnan Fell with Izzet Scam. D'Artagnan, the wheels fell off after that, has lost his last 2 matches.
Oh, I would have loved to have seen D'Artagnan playing the final round.
But
fun.
Chudzik has won all his matches off camera, so we're going to see if he can get revenge for losing on camera before. He's going to be playing against John Tagliarini, one of those 2 Izzet Murktide players.
Okay.
And also to round out that 14, by the way, we do have Michael Likens. Those of us who have been with us know he is playing that innovative Kragenwick Cremator Reanimator deck. Took a loss last round on camera, but was at 4-0, so he's still 4-1, still very much alive, playing to hopefully make top 8 this round. But we're going to be starting with the John Mirror Rakdos Scam against Izzet Murktide.
All right, before we get into that, I had one thing I wanted to ask, and this is a serious business. Is it Kragenwick or is it Kragenwhack?
Kragenwick.
Because if it's Kragenwick, I think that I'm in a parallel universe, because I have said Kragenwhack Cremator for roughly 15 years now, however long Shadowmoor ago was. Well, look, I believe you, but I'm just saying Mandela effect. I got wamboozled.
Maybe we should just call the deck Kragenwhack, because that's what it does to you. You got Kragenwhacked.
Yeah, you got Kragenwhacked. That's fine. All right, cool. Well, the players are ready in the feature match area. It's the John Mirror. Let's head on down and see who takes it down between these 2 sweet decks. We got Murktide Regent facing off against I forget.
Rakdos Scam.
Rakdos Scam. We did see the Rakdos Scam earlier in the day. It did get whooped by the Blue-Red Scam. We'll see if regular old Blue-Red's a little bit worse than the matchup.
I like Scam in this matchup.
Me too.
I like Chudzik's list has 3 Terminates in the main, so you're not going to just get punked that often by a Murktide Regent that goes unanswered. Has a couple of Fables, like pretty typical list, the 4-season Pyromancer, so has plenty to go long. 2 main deck Blood Moons. Not going to be great in this matchup, but could, sometimes they just don't have that many basic islands. If you catch them on 1 basic, you're usually in good shape.
Yeah, I'm not the hugest fan of Blood Moon effects against decks that regularly main deck Blood Moon themselves,
I do think that that'll be coming out, but, not completely dead in game 1. As for Tagliarini's list, it has 1 Blood Moon in the main, 3 Spell Pierce, so a lot of 1-mana spells. Went with the awkward 3 Consider 1 Thought Scour split, so really trying to get to those Murktide regions, but yeah, nothing, super innovative here, both pretty stock lists. They're stock for a reason, and the cream tends to rise to the top over the course of these tournaments. So these players thinking we got 1 more round to play. Both of them thinking that if I win this one, I can draw in round 7, because this was a relatively small 7-round event at 68 players.
All right, we are underway. Chudzik going to be on the play. Fetches quickly. Likely going to be a turn 1 Ragavan. That creature is the best 1-drop maybe ever printed. Definitely the best 1-drop legal in Modern. Deathrite Shaman, and maybe a close second, but that one hit the bricks long ago.
Ragavan's better than Deathrite Shaman.
I think so too, but a lot of people think I'm crazy.
It's not necessarily better in certain legacy formats, but there's a million formats where Deathrite Shaman is unplayable and Ragavan would be unprintable.
Yeah.
It would obviously busted.
Well, it really just goes to show you, like, Desert Shaman's legal in Pioneer, right? But without fetch lands, it's just completely neutered. It just doesn't do anything.
But if you put Ragavan in Pioneer, it will completely dominate the format.
I agree. All right, here we go. Ragavan is answered by Lightning Bolt from Tagliarini. The Murktide draw, able to handle the 1-drop. We'll see if Chudzik has anything cool here.
Looks like Chudzik drew one of his main deck of Blood Moons. Not great, but I imagine that will eventually get pitched to that Fury.
All right, here's Dauthi Voidwalker from Chudzik. That might mess up the Delve stuff from Tagliarini. We'll see if he wants to answer it. Now, it's weird if he goes for a Lightning Bolt, Ross. Can you explain what happens to the Lightning Bolt and to the Dauthi Voidwalker?
So, Dauthi Voidwalker won't affect itself. It'll go to the graveyard because it's only opponents. The Lightning Bolt, however, will be exiled. So you deal the 3 damage to the Voidwalker, but the Voidwalker is still on the battlefield until state-based actions are taken after the Lightning Bolt resolves. So the Lightning Bolt goes to go to the graveyard while the Dauthi Voidwalker has 3 damage on it, but is still on the battlefield.
Okay, great explanation. We're going back to Chudzik's way. No other play from Tagliarini, just a Scalding Tarn after the Lightning Bolt. We're going to play Black-Red Pathway on red on Chudzik's side.
So now could go for the Blood Moon here to lock Tagliarini on 1 island, but you're going to lock yourself on no black mana.
Right. I don't know if we can do that. So we're just going to go for the Spyro. We're going to discard some and draw some. This is a forced discard 2. We're going to get rid of the Fury and that Blood Moon. We're going to make 2 tokens and draw 2. Terminate was the last card in hand before the draw.
Yeah, terminate. You know, Fury. It's rare that Fury gets 2 creatures in this matchup, just because they don't play out that many. And most of them, you know, have 3 toughness, like, you know, Dragon's Rage Chandler with Delirium and Ledger Shredder, or it's a huge Murktide. So the terminate can kill a big Murktide where Fury can't. I like keeping it.
Tagliarini fetching an island, I guess a nod to those main deck Blood Moons from Chudzik and trying to play around them, even though one just got discarded. I'm not sure if he's going to use the mana on the blue this turn, but if he has Consider a Thought Scour, he could. Just going to go to untap.
Yeah, I think he just has a couple lands in hand, would rather fetch before he draws. Unfortunately, he draws another one there.
Well, he does have Mishra's Bauble and a Ledger Shredder, so can do the 1-2 punch and get a Connive and turn one of those lands into a spell.
Yeah, love that.
All right, fine to consider. There we go. Probably going to discard one of these lands.
I would discard a Steam Vents, I think, here. Okay, goes for the...
Could just play Steam Vents tapped. Try to do consider stuff next turn. All right, whatever.
I could have also seen discarding the Spire Bluff and playing a fetch land, so you get to use the fetch land with the bauble.
Fetch land with a bauble, but also fill your graveyard for a Murktide.
Yep.
All right, we're going to upkeep Bauble you, take a peek.
Yeah. That's good sequencing against the Thoughtseize deck. You get to see their top card for sure, and then you don't draw your card off the bauble until the next turn, so they can't Thoughtseize it on their own.
All right, Chudzik tanking.
Dropping his cards in his lap.
As a terminate, looks like a scam card. So if one of the removal spells from Tagliarini ever targets his creature, could scam him up.
And you really want to save the terminates for Murktide Regents, but decides he needs to get through here.
I like being aggressive. I think this is okay.
Yeah, I do like being aggressive, but that's a risky play. Murktide here would be bad news. I think he's got a scam card and another Blood Crypt.
All right, end of turn, we're going to play Consider. Going to keep it. And now, untap, we get to draw one from Bauble and then draw one for turn. Found Expressive Iteration, Ragavan, and a Darcy. 3 spells now. We are back in this game.
Chudzik potentially getting punished here for not leaving back one of those elemental tokens.
Oh, with the dash, yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like Expressive Iteration into double creature is pretty good here. But maybe you want to save the Expressive Iteration when you don't have a bunch of other stuff to play.
So we have land instant creature artifact in Tagliarini's graveyard. So that is a Delirious Dragon's Rage Channeler. Okay. Now writing sorcery even.
We're firing off the Expressive Iteration. This is going to give us a Surveil. We keep it on top. We find Expressive Blood Moon. What this ends up doing actually is it means that Tagliarini cannot get 2 cards off the Expressive Iteration. Yeah. My guess just puts another iteration in hand, exiles Blood Moon, puts another Expressive on the bottom.
Yeah, for sure. You can definitely shuffle that iteration back in. It'd be much better than the Blood Moon. So get that Blood Moon where it can't bother me anymore.
Okay. And now Steam Vents in hand can deploy the Ragavan. Probably going to do so. Down to 13.
Playing it just means that Chudzik can play around it. I don't know if I would probably just hold it. You could also draw a Shredder and discard it. into something more relevant.
That's true.
That like that, unless you're dashing the Ragavan, it's just never doing anything against the Seasoned Pyromancer.
Well, you can use it to trade, right? You can just block the Seasoned Pyromancer, and if there's like a bolt or something for the Dragon Rage Channeler, you're going to need to play a little bit of defense. And if it goes like Seasoned Pyromancer attacks and 1 or 2 tokens hang back, then the Ragavan has extreme incentive to trade.
Well, there's no bolt or push in Chudzik's hand right now because he would have used it last turn on the Shredder. Right. It's pretty easy to tell that Chudzik's hand is bad. There's no he would have played Ragavan last turn, would have played Dothy Voidwalker last turn, probably would have like tapped out for a Grief instead of killing the Shredder with a Terminate. Like, maybe has a Fury in hand, in which case playing the Ragavan is bad.
Well, he's got Castle Locthwain. That might be the thing we're sitting on here. I know we have a Blackcleave Cliffs, and it looks like one of those scammer cards. And so we're just going to pass the turn. I might have liked attacking with the Spyro because there's pretty big incentive for DRC to block, and you can just scam your Spyro, discard Directional Land, and draw 2. Seems reasonable.
Are you sure that's a Blackcleave Cliffs in hand?
Pretty sure. It's a land.
That would have been the land drop, right? Over Blood Crypt?
I don't know,
The
man.
land that has to be tapped.
Don't quote me on that. Once you figure out what it is later and tell me what it is. Here's Expressive Iteration. We're going to surveil 1. Top card is Mystery Time.
The Thinker.
All right, we're going to keep it on top. We see a Ragavan, a Darcy, and it looks like Thought Scour.
I think it's a Murktide.
Murktide would be 100%er. Oh,
Yeah.
wow, it is a Murktide. Okay.
Yeah, so we go. Ooh. Oh, well, we have a land in hand, so we're just playing both.
Yeah.
Yeah, just ditch the superfluous Ragavan. I got one of those. Now I'll play this Flooded Strand. I'll get an island. I'm just getting my spells ready.
All right, so this is going to be a big delve. He's trying to figure out what to leave in the graveyard for maybe like something in the future, but you definitely want to grow the Murktide as big as possible.
Yeah.
But you're trying to keep Delirium as well.
I think you have to leave a spell, right? Because you have land, artifact, creature, and then instant sorcery. So you can't just delve every spell if you have exactly 5. So I think you leave an iteration. It's way more likely you find more instants than more sorceries. So I think it's just leave iteration, make sure you leave Bauble and the Ledger Shredder.
Yeah, land Bauble Shredder, and then you can leave one other one of your choice.
Ooh. Well, immediately takes...
Okay, it looks like they're just leaving Delirium and exiling 3 or 4. This is going to be a relatively large Murktide.
So that was the
6.
biggest Tagliarini could have made it. I just would have left an iteration over that consider. But that's very small potatoes.
Okay, we're going to draw a card off Castle. That deals us 3 damage.
Ooh, and that makes it a lethal attack in the air now. You were at 13, looking at 12 power.
All right.
Grief.
Yeah, and I believe the other card was a Thoughtseize. It was one of those alternate. And we're just going to pack it in. John Chudzik loses game number 1, Tagliarina, with stock Izzet Murktide, winning the first one in impressive fashion. Expressive Iteration, obviously great against that attrition-based Rakdos scam deck.
Yeah, I thought Chudzik looked to be in pretty good shape. Over the first couple turns, they just traded resources. Then he had a Seasoned Pyromancer, but the Seasoned Pyromancer didn't really apply enough pressure. He kind of, drew pretty flooded out after that, and then the iterations from Tagliarini were huge. Just the power of that card that is banned in multiple formats.
Well, one of the things that was important there was early on, Chudzik discarded a Fury to the Spyro, right? And then the next turn, there was a Darcy and a Ragavan played on the same turn, and that Fury would have completely changed the dynamic of the next 2 turns. Obviously, Murktide Regent would have been somewhat difficult to fight through.
Well, he kept the Terminate instead, and there was a Shredder that was answered by the Terminate, so the Fury probably just answers the Shredder on the Ragavan, and then you're basically in the same spot.
Yeah, I'm just saying, like, that the natural sequence of Spyro just encouraged, like, a path that ended up being faulty.
Now, he ended up flooding, so being able to cast it and have it as a threat, that could have made a big difference, because I don't think Chudzik had really any removal for a 3/3 double striker.
All right, so as we are moving into sideboard, I'm going to let Ross take a look over these players' sideboards and give you his expert analysis. Ross, who you got and what they doing?
Starting with Chudzik, we got 2 more Blood Moons on the board. They suck. 2 Chalice of the Void, pretty good. 2 Engineered Explosives. Okay card in the matchup. I'm not a big fan. 1 Fatal Push, love that. 2 Idetsugu consumes all, not enough 1s. 2 Kolaghan's Command. I like having more attrition cards, but 2 damage just doesn't do enough. so I'm not a big fan. Shieldred seems, as a one-of, seems okay.
I like Shieldred. This is a matchup where, like, they just might not draw their Unholy Heat or whatever, and then they just die.
And then 3 copies of Unlicensed Hearse, definitely like those.
Okay.
That's a card that helps contain to the graveyard, stop Murktide Regent, stop, Delirium for DRCs, and eventually just becomes a really big threat that is hard for them to answer. So definitely like the Hearses and the push. Beyond that, it's all about how Chudzik wants to approach the matchup. I think on the play, I kind of like Chalice. I like it less on the draw.
Okay. All right, that's the Rakdos scam side of things. Let's take a look at the Izzet Murktide player sideboard. Tell me how you would take care of business, Ross.
2 Flusterstorm, 2 Engineered Explosives, 2 Unlicensed, 2 Brotherhood's End, 1 Seasoned Pyromancer, 2 Blood Moon, 2 Change the Equation, and 2 Dress Down. I like the Seasoned Pyromancer.
Okay.
Not a big fan of much else, but there are 3 Spell Pierces in the main that I really want to get out. Okay. So maybe you want a couple Hearses of your own. They can stop some later game scams.
The scam stuff.
Yeah, but on turn 2, you get scammed on turn 1.
Not with Fury all the time, right? Like,
yeah.
It's just the grief. Like, I mean, look, very little beats the turn 1 double grief. Like, very little. Even, like, you need, like, 2 removal spells in your opener. It's very difficult.
Yeah. I could also see Brotherhood's End. It deals with most of the things in their deck, sweeps up their Seasoned Pyromancers. That could be a reasonable card for this matchup. Also, destroys opposing Hearses. Yeah, I've talked myself into Brotherhood's End. I like that.
Okay, cool.
Destroying opposing Hearses is nice.
See if Tagliarini brought them in. And it looks like both players here are ready and keeping their opening 7. Let's head on down and see who takes down between Rakdos Scam and Izzet Murktide. Chudzik down a game, back against the wall. If he loses again, likely out of the event. Tagliarini with 1 more game win will likely be able to draw next round into top 8 and win his fair share of the $5,000 purse. Here we go. Turn 1, Scam of Fury.
That Seasoned Pyromancer should be exiled.
Yeah.
Which is relevant. It has a graveyard ability.
There we go. Okay. So turn 1, 4/4 Fury. That's 8 power coming at you every turn.
So I see Ragavan, DRC, Otawara. We could race to an Otawara and bounce it. There's a Consider.
Yeah, nothing that directly answers the Fury here. So we're going to get hit with it at least once. Or we're going to be chump blocking with Murktide and Ragavan. Neither a very good prospect, if you ask me. But that's a way to not be dead.
But if we chump block with a creature and have Bobble and Consider and this land, all we need to find is an Unholy Heat.
That's a good point. So chump blocking might actually be pretty good because it ultimately leads to potential Unholy Heat.
Yeah, and you've, Chudzik has given up 2 cards to power this Fury into play. So if you give up 1 to save life, you're still ahead.
All right, top card has to have been Unholy Heat, right?
Oh, no.
Oh, no, he's just tanking on it. It is Unholy Heat. Interesting.
It's like,
I think maybe he has an Unholy Heat in hand, but it's the alternate art one, and we just didn't recognize it. So, okay, so here we go.
That's dangerous, though.
Delirium.
If you get Thoughtseized or Griefed here,
you got to get Delirium online. It's so difficult.
I'm pretty sure there's a Consider in hand, though.
All right, well, now we have Delirium, so 1 mana Unholy Heat on the Fury is going to be good. We'll see if Chudzik has another way to protect it. Looks like his hand is just Spyro plus Grief.
Yep.
So Unholy Heat here is Gucci for Tagliarini, and he might be well on his way. Draws an extra card from the Bobble. Draws Counterspell.
Yeah, there's Consider Heat. Looks like he needed... Tagliarini might have needed more lands. He does have the Otawara, so he had 2nd land, but I don't want it to guarantee the 3rd.
All right, well, let's see if he can resolve this Unholy Heat. As a Ragavan, he can play as well, or Consider.
The awkward thing here is that he really wants to play Ragavan plus Heat, but doesn't really want to take a bunch of extra damage in order to fetch Shock again.
All right, here's the Heat. That's going to play around that. Might also be considerate of Blood Moon, doesn't necessarily want to fetch Steam Vents and lose to that.
I would imagine all the Blood Moons are out, so...
Yeah, but every time you think that, you lose to the Blood Moon. That, you walk into it, so if you don't have to, you don't have to, right?
Yeah.
Plus, you might want to dash the Ragavan. You don't want to let another Fury scam just, blow you out next turn. I like Fetch Island Consider. I think it's reasonable.
So do I, but mainly to conserve life total. Conserving your life total in the scam matchup for almost any deck is so important. They're such an explosive deck, and if you can deal with that early burst, you're usually in very good shape. This is, as opposed to other Thoughtseize-based mid-range decks, this one has way less card advantage in late game stuff.
Okay.
Unless they're getting a ton of card advantage off of a Fury scam.
All right, so Chudzik, no land drop, just passes back. He drew Terminate for the turn. His hand is Terminate, Grief, Season Pyromancer. Back Tagliarini's way. End of turn, we're going to play a Consider. Top card. Thinking on it. See if you want to put it in the graveyard.
We've got Ragavan, Counterspell, Expressive Iteration. So
And Odawara.
I would expect the next turn to just be a hard cast Ragavan, leave up Counterspell.
All right, decides to keep whatever card was on top.
And if I'm Tagliarini, I am not countering the Terminate on the Ragavan. I'll just trade that 1-for-1, save my Counterspell for something better. Next turn, I can Iteration, generate card advantage, play my 4th land, still hold up the Counterspell, and be in great shape.
All right. Well,
Love it.
Tagliarini going to play a Ragavan, no dash, no Terminate from Chudzik. I feel like that one was a reasonable cast there. Now if we go for Spyro, it's just going to get bit by this Counterspell.
But I think you got to go for the...
Oh, we're going full scam first. So we're not going to Terminate. We're going to go Grief. We're going to probably end up taking the Counterspell.
I mean, yeah, if you're Tagliarini, you just have to counter.
Ooh, he has, guess what in hand? A little bit of Dress Down. We might be playing that in response to the Grief. That means the Grief is going to stay in play, but not have the discard ability. We're going to draw a card. But then Spyro is essentially neutered as well because there's no ability when it enters play. So Chudzik may have to just pass a turn and just try to resolve the... Oh, he just goes for Counterspell instead. Interesting. I would have loved the Dress Down there.
Well, then the Grief's in play.
Yeah, but it's just a 3-2 menace. Not taking your hand. It's going to trade with the Ragavan. Who cares? But now, like, I don't know. Now, it would have just been cool. Obviously, if you know the Spyro's there, you do the Dress Down. But I actually think Chudzik might have punted by playing the land first and kind of giving it away a little. Here's a Spyro. We're going to draw 2.
Two Furies.
Wow. Big game.
Okay. Spellpiercer stayed in.
Okay, maybe couldn't get them all out. Maybe didn't bring in the Brotherhood's Ends, you know.
I feel like sometimes stop an early scam, but on the draw, that doesn't really work. So I could see it on the play, but...
All right, here's Iteration. We're finding Bauble, Land... Counterspell. I guess Counterspell to hand. If he has a land drop, he'll get the Bauble. If he doesn't have a land drop, he'll get that.
Don't think Tagliarini has land 4 in... No, he has the Otawara still. Okay, yeah, so we just get Bauble. Counterspell, play our Otawara, play our Bauble. Pass the turn.
All right, now you have Counterspell. Again, I'm not a big fan of using Counterspell on the Grief there. I feel like if you are getting scammed by like a scam card there, the Dress Down fixes that issue. I don't know. It would have been a completely different game if Dress Down had been cast instead of Counterspell on the Pitch Grief. Just not really afraid of Pitch Grief with 1 card left in hand.
Yeah. I can see the merits of the Dress Down.
All right, Chudzik has Fury, looking to pitch. Here we go. That's 3 Furies. Gonna blast that Ragavan in the next week, and we're gonna Counterspell that to keep the Ragavan around.
Yeah, also just doesn't want to deal with a 3/3 double striker when you're at 7. No removal in hand. Yeah, we got Bauble draw, regular draw, just 2 lands, so not great draws here from Tagliarini. He's ahead on resources, but he's flooded, so his lead is, nil because of that. I almost would have main phased a Dress Down to see if I could find something.
Yeah. All right. It's very powerful in the matchup, and here, luckily, Tagliarini has the Dress Down for the Season Pyromancer off the top, and Chudzik going to go for it, and this is almost a forced Dress Down at this point. You can't let him trade that card in hand for 2. So we're going to draw 1 off the Dress Down. Another land, I think.
No, that's a Brotherhood's End.
Ooh, okay. Tell me more.
So now I expect Chudzik to... Ooh, doesn't attack.
Well, doesn't want to be vulnerable to like Bolt plus attack on the Ragavan, but with Tagliarini at 7, you have to give it some damage.
Opponent's at 7, and that... It's clear they don't... Ooh, that's a Ghouler.
Yeah, that's a nice one. Okay, so we're going to make this as big as possible, and now Chudzik is going to need to draw Terminate or something similar to take care of the Murktide, or is threatening to be lethal in 2 swings.
Yeah. And I think we just fire off this Brotherhood's End now.
I was thinking...
Oh, no, you want to hold up the Spell Pierce for a Terminate.
Okay.
So, and we could shock a Brotherhood's End?
Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of going to 5, but maybe it's worth... I think just passing is fine. The spirals aren't really that threatening.
Yeah, yeah, this is fine.
All right, Chudzik draws. Can't
Is it
see.
the fourth Fury?
Not a Fury. Looks like a Colgan's Command, maybe? It's very hard to tell from that angle.
Holding's command isn't going to do a whole lot.
No, passing of the turn. Gonna go back. Tackling his way. Smash Freight.
Is that another Murktide?
If it is, maybe it should have been played pre-combat.
No.
Was a Colgan's Command. All right, we're gonna go 2 to your Ragavan and get back Fury. Interesting. Tagliarini can just Spell Pierce this. This feels like a pretty easy Spell Pierce.
Yeah. Then you run afoul of a Terminate.
I guess you're right. I don't know. I guess the Spell Pierce just doesn't feel like it's going to get too much better unless it's exactly Terminate off the top. You know?
Also, if you let this resolve, you're getting destroyed by a scam card, right? They just double scam your... Yeah, so I think you got a Pierce to play around, all the scam cards.
All right, I think that's it. I think Chudzik just drew like a Feign Death or a Dothly Voidwalker, and he's going to pack it in. John Tagliarini wins 2-0. 5-1 record going into the last round of Swiss. Almost a guaranteed draw next round to put himself into the elimination rounds and lock up a nice sizable chunk of the $5,000 prize purse. That's a guaranteed $250 to 8th place, and is looking for the top slot, number 1, $1,500 cash.